Barry Markowitz, born and raised in Brooklyn, worked in Manhattan, saw a New York Times article about the summer of love, quit my job, bought a car, drove out to San Francisco to see this summer of love. That was 1967. 6 months later, I came down to Los Angeles. I lived in Los Feliz. I did settle in downtown, though, by 72 at the Rykoff buildings up on 7th and Alameda. One of the buildings, the bottom floor was a clothing company. Above that, those places were empty, but they were fully equipped because there was electrical going to the first floor. Electrical and water went to all floors. Clean, white lit places that you could easily squat in. So for a studio, that was my place for a while. I was on the road for a while and I came back into town, and I didn't really know anybody anymore, so I just enrolled at Northridge. I showed up the first day wearing nothing but a red bathrobe, and I had beer cans sticking out of the thing, and I took some tape and I taped off an area in the studio and I put my initials on it and I wrote in it, "Nobody comes over that line. This is my space." Nobody did. I brought in these giant pieces of wood that were 5 by 9 feet. And I brought in rolls of orange peeled foam rubber. And I just started nailing it in and patting it in the back so they bulged. Run some glue on them and some gauze and shards of foam rubber sticking out. And then I coated the whole thing with gunpowder. It was really sort of like all vaginas, you know. No matter what you did, they were vaginas. Gary Lloyd was there at the time, and he stopped by and he says, "Those yours?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "You got balls, man. You just got balls." Hans Burkhardt was teaching out there at the time, and he was doing these skull paintings, all sort of reactions to Vietnam. And he'd stand next to me in the hall. He's "Barry, what do you want to do with these?" And I said, "I don't know, I have gunpowder." And he says, "Let's burn them, let's light them on fire." So we bring it out to the Halstead Annex out there, which was just a sculpture place, and we lie them down in they had little pools of collecting water. They would lie them down in that, and we blow them up and fucking light them on fire and watch them burn, and then Hans would put his arm around me. There were two kinds of communities. There was a closely related sort of downtown group, the Turks, that I think was sort of dominant in the public eye or in the art scene. But then there were many other people who were just living on their own and maybe not necessarily in a scene or a community. My next studio was over on Spring and 8th in the Bank Building, which was an awesome space. And I happened to get the third floor where there was a vault. So you could basically live in that vault. But I wouldn't say even sharing all the floors with other artists, there was a feeling of community. It was more like we just sort of went in and out of the same building from time to time. But that was, to me, the strength of it. You could sort of be iconoclastic. I had been doing performances since '73. My work sort of involved a kind of non-linear narrative idea to it, so there were other people involved, and since people are cheaper than making the props were people. And then I was also involved in making object work, mostly assemblage. Later, in the evolution of my stay there, my son was born, and I had to take him to the studio as an infant. He's in his little rocker thing, so I'm rocking him, smoking, making the work all at the same time. And so that was sort of a daily process, you know. Don't kill me because of the cigarettes thing. So I was making assemblage, and I would have like a cutting board, and my hands were cast out of paper, and they looked like wings, but they were also hands, and they were pouring pencil shavings into a funnel which was attached to a pencil sharpener. And there was a tube that came out of the front where the pencil would go, and it would fill up a bottle of Orange Crush. And it was sort of like how to make Orange Crush. And they were kind of ridiculous assemblages. I would build a duplicate of Mount St. Victoire Cézanne's mountain, which he painted 150,000 times, and I'd make a clay version of that. And then I would go to the library and get books out that I stole, and then I could cut up all the reproductions of Mount St. Victoire. And I cubed them, and I pushed them into the mountain so that the entire mountain was made up of reproductions in odd little off-color printed versions of it. And then I build an ark made out of Edward Muybridge motion series, and that went on top. And then I'd separate the painting of the mountain from the Muybridge photography by microscope slides, which stuck out. So it was a prickly business getting near the mountain. So that was what my work was all about, between object work like these assemblage pieces, and which everything had these sort of esoteric narratives, which made it completely unavailable to almost everybody. And then the performative work, which was far more open, mysterious, but successful because they were action and physical. Our whole neighborhood down here, which is the arts district, slowly but surely the artists, the practitioners will disappear. This is a building which has been artist studios for a good 20 years for sure. Still part industrial, still near the edge of downtown, although that's changing, of course, and that edge moves out. The building is changing hands. I'll be leaving here. Where I'm going, I don't know. I haven't found a place I'm going to yet, but am I making work? Of course, I'm going to make work, because why even get involved with this mishigas of a lifestyle unless you're going to make something? If you weren't doing this, you could just have a job. You could have a pension. You could do all this. So why be involved all these years if you're not just going to make it because you have to make it? I go to openings. I go to these places. I want to be there. I want to be involved. I want to see what other artists have to say, that I don't know why their work looks like that and mine doesn't. How I'm either slowing down and being left in the dust, or am I really still in competition? The only way to do that is to be involved. I'm benefiting from the changes, and so is Los Angeles. I'm not going to benefit by the economy of it, but I do benefit by the community, and I see that I am part of that community. And I like my presence in there. I may be an elderly artist in there, but I'm just as much working as they are. My work is just as viable in my mind as they are. So to me, it's the growing community that allows me to actually thrive even better than I did 20 years ago.
Cut.